Hi, I'm Mary Felling. I'm a physical therapist with over 30 years of experience. In the last 25 years, I have focused on an area called myofascial release treatment. I like to clarify what myofascial release is because it's a little bit different than traditional hands-on body work, but it also kind of falls in the same plane and range of what other therapies do. So myofascial release is a hands-on approach, it's a general approach to affect the myofascial system. Myo means muscle, fascia is the connective tissue in our body. So if you think about a big cobweb, and that cobweb runs from the bottom of your feet up through your body to the top of your head, front to back and side to side, that's our cobweb. It surrounds, it supports, and it infuses every structure in our body. So our muscles, ligaments, tendons, our organs, our bones, everything has the sinewy three-dimensional cobweb through it and around it. Well, when we have an injury, which can be from overuse, repetitive use, strains, surgeries, stress, just being a human being alive on this planet, or we're in poor postures for a long period of time, the fascia in response to that will bind down and tighten and dry out. So it becomes dehydrated, becomes very sticky. And that area where it tightens and dries out is called a myofascial restriction. And myofascial restrictions can place up to almost 2,000 pounds of force per square inch, wherever it is. And so when you get that much compression around these pain-sensitive structures like muscles and tendons, nerves and blood vessels, you become painful in that area. That myofascial restriction is causing pain in that area. And it's also causing a loss of optimum mobility. So a myofascial release practitioner, when we come to work on someone's body, we're looking for these myofascial restrictions. And when we find them, we put mechanical energy into the body. So mechanical energy is compression, it can be twisting, and it can be elongating. And when you put a mechanical energy into a human body for a minimum of 5 minutes, it begins this electrical flow called the piezoelectric effect. And this is what kind of makes it different than other therapies, because we're in one spot for a minimum of 5 minutes. And then we maintain the mechanical energy if we're compressing an area or elongating it, so that that bioelectric flow, that piezoelectric effect, as it moves through the system, it happens to move through the copper wires known as fascia, and as it comes to an area that's bound down, tightened, the myofascial restriction, it causes that area to rehydrate, soften, and elongate. Now, once this experience of the myofascial restriction becoming released happens, then it is possible for that mechanical energy to propagate other areas and create releases in other areas. We're always looking at the whole body when we do myofascial release, so it is known as a whole body system because the fascia connects the body. So I could have fascial restrictions here that became present from when I was in high school and played a lot of softball, and I overthrew and I had a lot of tendonitis. So I got a lot of restrictions here. Well, over the years, because the fascia is all made from one single strand of material, if I keep having different injuries, maybe tendinitises or overuse, it finds its way as a tension pattern through other parts. It might create a tension over into the opposite side of my head and begin creating headaches here. So I might have a headache here, but the problem is over here. Myofascial release practitioners often will treat in areas where there isn't pain, but the problem is located. If I have a headache due to a problem here, here's the pain, here's the problem. Myofascial release practitioners will treat here. Traditionally, other therapists will go to where the pain is and they'll treat here. Necessary, it's important to treat here, but conventional medicine often ignores the fascial influence of chronic pain and therefore misses the chance to get to the bottom of the problem, which would be here. So my grandmother used to knit me sweaters and scarves from one single skein of yarn. And so in that sweater or the scarf It's all connected because it's all from the same single strand of material. So let's say this was one of her sweaters, but I snagged the sweater on something. And when I snagged it, you could see that it's creating tension to other parts of the sweater. It's the same in our body. We can injure a part of our body. Since I was talking about the right shoulder, I'll just stay with that. And as there's myofascial restrictions, it creates tension into other parts. And you can see that this is, well, if I'd held this down, it's creating tension into other parts of my shirt. This is what's different than just treating muscles, tendons, and ligaments. Myofascial restrictions require myofascial release. You can't release them with stretching. You can't release them with warmth. You can help soften them, but really causing the rehydration process and the lengthening and softening process requires that piezoelectric effect. When I started out in physical therapy years and years ago, I started as an orthopedic and sports medicine physical therapist in the traditional way. Got a lot of good results, really enjoyed working with my patients. And then after about being 7-8 years in that area of physical therapy, I began having headaches. Those became more severe. I started getting neck pain. I started getting pain through my shoulders, between my shoulder blades. And at this time I had 3 little kiddos. And I started finding that there was no answer to what I was suffering from. I was doing my traditional therapy on me. Friends, physical therapists were working on me. And I really wasn't getting anywhere. And it was about this time I started taking these John Barnes Myofascial Release seminars. And in these seminars, we work with each other because we're practicing the techniques. And after having headaches, migraines, weakness, I had gotten really bad. I had to stay home. I had to quit my job because I couldn't function. And when I started taking these seminars, little by little, I could tell at the end of a 3-day seminar, I feel a little better. I didn't have quite the amount of tension and pounding on one side of my head from a migraine. And after a few years, as I got better and better, I realized the myofascial approach was curing things that the traditional therapies were not reaching. And I began to realize my myofascial system, my fascial system in particular, really needed a lot of work. Within probably 3 to 4 years after working and exchanging myofascial release treatment with fellow myofascial therapists, I was pain-free, and I had been in pain for 10 years. So I'm living proof that it works. I have nothing against traditional therapies because they're so important. You have to do strengthening, you have to do stretching. This was just another piece of a hands-on therapy that will help where sometimes traditional therapies can't or are not able to help. I do have a lot of follow-along videos on my channel here. And if you'd like a chance to experience myofascial release self-treatment and see what it can do for you, just kind of go through and see which particular video speaks to you. I have one for the hip and the back, for neck, for TMJ pain and dysfunction, shoulder, the psoas. If you're familiar with the psoas, it's a really good one for anybody who has to do a lot of lifting, carrying, caring for their kids, leaning over and holding positions for long periods of time. See how those work for you, get the experience of it. And if you do feel better when you finished it, whichever particular video you look at, make sure to do it for 14 days in a row so you get the full effect and get some permanency to the positive changes it brings you. Thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video.